the discussion that I've seen, again, I come from that traditional background, so a lot of my friends and family come from that background as well. The discussion that's been having now is, you have the Chosen series, the TV series that's going on, and you have an actor portraying Jesus. So Chris, are we making an idol out of this actor because he's portraying who Jesus is in that moment and he's acting in that way? Is there concern with that? Is it not a big deal? What are your thoughts?
Are you asking me, do I have concern with that? No.
That's my question.
The short answer.
As we're talking, it's just interesting because as we think of, I'm thinking Old Testament specifically, God appears in many different forms. So whether it's a pillar of fire at night to lead the Jews, or whether it's a cloud during the day, God's presence was often described as this cloud settling on that temple. I mean, so we get this crazy story where Moses wants to see God's face, and God says, "You can't handle my face.
Yeah.
But I'll show you my backside," and you just decide what you think that means. But he gave him a glimpse of something more than just some floaty spirit. I mean, I don't know what that is. I just wonder how much that plays into this conversation, that God wasn't terrified of revealing himself in these different forms.
Yeah.
And yet the Jews didn't idolize that. They didn't make some kind of an idol out of that. When we get into Psalms, there's all kinds of word pictures of God, from mother hen to
strong tower
to universe in the span of his hand. I mean, and all of those are just bits and pieces of the fullness or whatever.
Yeah.
So we've all heard that story that whatever guys touching pieces of an elephant and they don't know what it is because they can only grab pieces of it, right? So they have all these different descriptors in their head and they're all wrong because the picture's not complete. They just get a chunk. There's something beautiful about that.
Yeah.
And so as we talk and as we're thinking about this issue, I want to bring back to the reality that God is knowable, absolutely knowable, but he's not all knowable. Like, we can't know everything about him. And so this is helpful to me in counseling work, because often the question that gets asked is why? Why, God? Why did you? Why are you? Why haven't you? Just the why questions. And for me personally, coming back to if I could answer all the why questions, then God wouldn't be God. Because there are just things that God, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean he's not knowable.
Right.
So this tension between, and that's really what we're kind of talking around, that tension between. So The Chosen, I don't know. The Chosen series, I don't know. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I God was comfortable sending Jesus down in some sort of physical form.
Right.
He looked like a dude.
Right. There is a physical form of Jesus.
Yeah.
And we can guess pretty well what it looked like.
Right.
It's not European Jesus. I had that little picture when I was a kid in my King James Bible, European Jesus, but Middle Eastern, 30-year-old. I mean, we can kind of guess what that hair and body type and skin tone and
Yeah.
I don't think I helped anything.
I'll go on record as saying I think The Chosen is a great thing.
Yeah.
Because it helps us understand who Jesus was, how God works and interacts with us. Right. Is it perfect? No. Is it at the level of the gospel? No, in terms of Scripture. But it really does help. And I think as someone who has some background in theater and production stuff, anyone who portrays Jesus or is the voice of God for any kind of production, it messes with you in a really good way, because you have to try and think, how can I communicate this? Man, it's just so far above me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say to that, I was actually in an Easter play.
I was going to say, what was your part, Jake?
That was the other side, though.
Yeah, I was Satan in that play, so I don't know what this conversation means for my well-being anymore. I'm a little concerned over here and ready to move on, guys.
That's why you're at that side of the table.
Oh, man.
This is actually an intervention.
Yes. I do think, in relation to the conversation and not like my soul now, there is something to me on the idea that the Bible begins with God creating.
Yeah.
And so the idea of being able to ask this question of, hey, is it bad to create things to represent God? God created things that represented God.
Yeah.
So all of the things that he created, they don't, like as Chris would say, it's not all of who God is in the ocean when he created the ocean, but there's a piece of who God is in that creation.
Right.
And I think recognizing when we watch a show or we look at art or music or whatever it may be, like, man, there could be a piece of that. Not always, right? Like, not everything that mentions God is going to be like this biblical reflection of who God is,
Right.
but a piece of that. So it's just an aspect of God that you're clinging to in some ways.
Well, I think it's even helpful for us to bring in, I mean, how we look at the Bible as a whole. I mean, when we look at the Old Testament, you can look at the story of Joseph, and Joseph is a type of Jesus. Joseph's story points to Jesus.
What do you mean by a type?
A type. So you might have to help with the full definition, but basically a type would be something that kind of represents that person. So when we're talking about a type of Jesus, Joseph isn't Jesus, but he is a type of Jesus. His story, his actions, the outcome of his story points toward Jesus. So the example would be, a really clear example would be Moses is another type. So Moses delivers the people of Israel out of slavery, just like Jesus brings us out of the slavery of sin. And so Joseph is also a type, and in that story, Joseph isn't the totality of who Jesus is. He's a part that points to who Jesus is. And so as long as we're looking at the chosen in that way, that this doesn't tell the full story of who Jesus is, this isn't literally Jesus in the flesh, but this helps point me toward the full Jesus, there's probably a benefit in that. So